are signs all over the place. You know, the Fed drops short-term interest rates down, but at the same time, we see the back end of the curve start to go up. And that to me is the market or big money selling long-dated claims for the future delivery of dollars, which increases interest rates for the bonds. And this is not a good omen. This is at the same time, we see them buying gold and silver at a rate the world has never seen before. And I think that for a long time, we had, it seemed, this geopolitical cooperation, in particular in the price of oil and the price of gold, with the Saudis and with other countries. And it seems as though the markets are no longer discounting this geopolitical cooperation, at least in my mind, in terms of the price of oil and in terms of gold. And they are starting to separate themselves. We can look at a country like, for example, in this case, a country like Poland, who has now decided to continue to purchase gold. They're already at 420 metric tons. They have more gold now than the EU. And when you talk about what Adam Lipinski, the head of the central bank, said, is that he wants to get it up to as high as 20% of their foreign exchange reserves. And I want to remind people what Adam Lipinski said when asked recently, why is it that you buy gold? And he says, because gold will retain its value even when someone cuts off the power to the global financial system, destroying traditional assets based on electronic accounting records. Now, of course, we don't assume that this will happen, but as the saying goes, forewarned is forearmed. When you hear things like this, it becomes very, very important. We're seeing the breakout of gold in Swiss francs, which is a very important confirmation because especially in terms of other currencies where we've seen gold break out in most currencies, but the Swiss franc has been one of the world's top performing currencies this year and in years past. And a breakout in Swiss francs above moving averages is even more, monumentous. And it is, and it's happening. We're seeing countries like Iran who have increased their gold ownership and purchasing by 6 times this year compared to the same time last year. And there was an interesting article that came out about a hacking group that exposed documents from a company called Tandar Sara. I know I butchered the hell out of that name, but anyways, this company is involved in drone technology, and it's linked to Iran, to their military. And the hacked documents that came out, kind of like a WikiLeaks thing, said that Iran paid $1.75 billion in a deal for drones, and the payment was made with several tons of gold ingots. We're seeing a shift away. We're seeing a movement away from the West, a shift away from treasuries, a shift away from dollars, and a changing of the guard. And, countries are tired of sanctions and the bullying, and they're trying to get out of the way of the West. And they're doing that by purchasing over $1 trillion of gold since 2022 while selling $1 trillion in treasuries. This is a trend that is unmistakable.
Since 2022, countries around the world have sold over $1 trillion in US treasuries while buying over $1 trillion in gold. Poland alone now holds more gold than the entire EU and is aiming for 20% of its reserves in gold. This isn't just a trend, it's a major shift. Iran is even trading gold for military technology, signaling that these nations are preparing for a global financial reset. Countries like China and Russia are leading this movement, creating their own settlement systems and boosting their gold reserves while avoiding US assets. If you think this doesn't affect you, wait until you hear how these moves could trigger a crisis that reshapes America's financial future and your own investments.
When we talk about the countries in Project Enbridge, the ones that are moving to what I believe is really the big moment, and that is if indeed we see a common settlement currency come out of this meeting in October or in a few weeks here in Russia. It's noteworthy to note that all of the countries in Enbridge, China, Hong Kong, Thailand, UAE, they all run a current budget surplus, and all of them have been increasing their gold reserves. And instead of buying treasuries, this is what's called gold recycling, and they're storing their trade surpluses in gold instead of U.S. treasuries. This is huge. All of these things are going to factor in to this big moment. And it's also noteworthy to note that China, Hong Kong, and the UAE all have sophisticated precious metals markets. The one in Shanghai, the volume has now surpassed the COMEX dramatically with a 400% increase in volume over the past 6 months or less. It's now the second most actively traded market in the world. You can see the pieces are being put into place. It's not just gold. We find out that Russia's federal budget draft includes plans to acquire not just gold, platinum, and palladium, but for the first time ever announced by a central bank, silver. And it's the first time that the central bank has ever made a significant announcement in this regards. And, you know, could it push it above 50? Yeah, why not? When you have stupidity to the degree that we have, suppression on the COMEX market, on the LBMA, yeah, it's rocket fuel. And maybe that's why we see the Citibank analyst, Max Layton, come out and say that, well, first of all, silver's up about 35% so far this year, but they're predicting over the next 3 months a rise up to $38 and maybe even higher. So all of these things are beginning to factor into into the global picture, and that discounts all the stupidity that we are seeing at home, where $167 million was just given to Lebanon, approved in aid, $385 million already this year, and yet we need to get congressional approval to approve additional aid to North Carolina at the same time, and they've gotten a fraction of that amount. It's unbelievable where this moron, the head of Homeland Security, Mayorkas, came out just on Wednesday, I think, and he said that they don't have enough funds in FEMA, that they've already spent more than $1.4 billion since the fall of 2022 to address the migrant crisis, and they expect another hurricane hitting a la tomorrow. But they don't have enough money to do it. And, you know, it's disgusting that we've given $1.4 million to illegal immigrants here, money taken from FEMA and at the same time in an environment, you know, and this is kind of just, I digress for a second, where it just seems that with this modern monetary theory BS that's all over the place, where we can spend money to a degree that no one's ever seen before. We can create a 100,000 in debt every second and $1 trillion every 100 days, which took 200 years to do the first time, that we don't even have enough decency and even a hollow gesture to stuff the coffers of organizations like FEMA so they can come in and help us when we need it most. It's just unbelievable that we give money all around the world and don't take care of our own. It's horrific. And you have the reporting agencies. Remember we talked about Claudia Sahm, the Sahm rule, which is I think 9 recessions in a row perfect record, where if employment rate drops, I think 50 basis points below its 3-month moving average, you're in a recession. And the unemployment rate would have had to have fallen to 4.5% for that to be triggered, as it should be. In September, we get this, again, with the BLS. I mean, we should just take the L right out of this and call it what it is. It's BS. They tell us after, revising 1 million jobs in last year, now they tell us that in September that they added a whopping 254,000 jobs, the biggest monthly increase since March, higher than average monthly gain, blah, 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 blah. But what they didn't tell us is that they actually increased the number of government workers by 785,000 government workers, the highest monthly surge in government workers on record. right before an election, complete and total BS out of the BLS. In reality, the U.S. job market shed 458,000 jobs in September. They're called non-seasonally adjusted jobs. We lost 460,000 jobs. We added 785,000 government jobs. And to your point, government doesn't produce anything. They just suck assets out of the system, suck profitability. They don't have the profit motive that we find in business where you do things for a profit motive. There is no profit motive with government. Therefore, it's completely and totally inefficient. And that's exactly what we are seeing here, just this crap and people will believe it, because most of the people who think that the economy is strong didn't even see that they quietly revised jobs down at the end of the year for 2023. It's disgusting. We spent $66 billion on illegal immigrants in 2023 versus $4 billion for homeless veterans. When you talk about, priorities being misplaced, and it's crazy. So, I think that there are a lot of things going on right now that people should be alarmed about.
Now that you understand the massive global shift happening with countries moving away from the US dollar and piling into gold, the next thing you need to know is how this could directly impact your wealth and financial future. Make sure to watch the next important video from this channel to get ahead of these changes and protect yourself.